Created in World War I to fight alongside America's allied partners in Europe, 100 years later, ensuring the readiness of our homeland partners in the Army National Guard and Army Reserve. We are 1st Army.
Over there.
1st Army, America's first numbered army, was established in France on August 10, 1918, under the command of General John Blackjack Pershing. Only a few months later, thanks to the valiant fighting efforts of hundreds of thousands of American soldiers and their French and English partners, the war was over. In France, 1st Army left a legacy of victory in two major operations: the reduction of the Saint-Mihiel salient east of Verdun, and the Great Meuse-Argonne offensive west of Verdun. With the Great War at an end, 1st Army was deactivated in 1919. When the unit was reactivated in 1933 at Fort Jay, New York, 1st Army had a new mission, which is the same mission we have today, supporting the training and readiness of the Army National Guard and Army Reserve. Until the eve of World War II, 1st Army commanded 6 corps of soldiers from the active duty Army, the Army National Guard, and the Army Reserve. In 1943, 1st Army resumed its field army combat role and moved its headquarters to Bristol, England.
Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition.
On D-Day, June 6, 1944, with General Omar Bradley in command, 1st Army troops landed on Omaha and Utah beaches in Normandy, France, with 1st Army commanding all American ground forces during the invasion. 1st Army established an impressive record of firsts in World War II. First on the beaches of Normandy. First out of the Normandy beachhead. First into Paris. First to break the Siegfried Line. First to cross the Rhine River. And first to link up with our Soviet allies at the Elbe River. Following World War II, 1st Army returned to the United States and was designated as one of 6 continental U.S. armies responsible for supervising and training active duty and Army National Guard units, as well as commanding all installations in an 8-state region of the northeastern United States. Beginning in the 1950s and continuing through the 1970s, 1st Army mobilized and deployed thousands of soldiers during the Korean and Vietnam Wars. In 1966, 1st Army's area of operation expanded to 15 states and the District of Columbia. At the same time, the headquarters relocated from Governor's Island, New York to Fort Meade, Maryland. In 1973, 1st Army transitioned from primarily supporting the active duty Army to improving the training and readiness of the reserve components, as it had between World War I and World War II, and as we do today. In 1990, 1st Army trained, mobilized, and deployed more than 41,000 Army National Guard and Army Reserve soldiers for Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm. In 1991, 1st Army's area of responsibility expanded to cover the 20 northeastern, mid-Atlantic, and upper Midwestern states and the District of Columbia, making 1st Army the largest of the Continental Armies in terms of personnel. In 1995, 1st Army's area increased again to include all reserve component units east of the Mississippi River, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. At the same time, 1st Army headquarters moved to Fort Gillem, Georgia. Along with the Reserve Component Training Support mission, for many years 1st Army also executed a Defense Support of Civil Authorities mission. This meant that 1st Army planned for and provided personnel for Department of Defense support to domestic disasters ranging from hurricanes to floods to fires to terrorist attacks. After the terrorist attacks of 9/11, 1st Army Defense coordinators provided DoD support during relief efforts. In 2005, 1st Army answered the call to partner with our fellow Americans in time of need by supporting recovery efforts along the Gulf Coast following Hurricane Katrina.
We are working hard with the state and federal agencies.
1st Army's commanding general, Lieutenant General Russell Honore, was selected to lead Joint Task Force Katrina, the joint operation between the Department of Defense and Federal Emergency Management Agency, to provide relief and security for citizens and property in areas ravaged by the storm. In 2006, 1st Army's mission expanded to include responsibility for training, support, and mobilization of all Army National Guard and Army Reserve units throughout the entire continental United States. With its newly expanded mission, 1st Army organized its training brigades under two subordinate multi-component headquarters, one division to support the western United States and the other to support the eastern United States, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. 1st Army Division West was activated at Fort Carson, Colorado in 2006 and moved its headquarters to Fort Hood, Texas in 2009. 1st Army Division East was activated in 2007 at Fort Meade, Maryland, and moved its headquarters to Fort Knox, Kentucky in 2016. In 2011, 1st Army Headquarters relocated to Rock Island Arsenal, Illinois. Beginning in 2015, 1st Army restructured its formations to more effectively support the training and readiness of the reserve component. Today, 1st Army's 10 training brigades are strategically located throughout the continental United States. Division West consists of the 120th Infantry and 166th Aviation Brigades at Fort Hood, Texas, 181st Infantry Brigade at Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, 189th Infantry Brigade at Joint Base Lewis McChord, Washington, and 5th Armored Brigade at Fort Bliss, Texas. Division East consists of the 157th Infantry Brigade at Camp Atterbury, Indiana, 174th Infantry Brigade at Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst, New Jersey, 188th Infantry Brigade at Fort Stewart, Georgia, 177th Armored Brigade at Camp Shelby, Mississippi, and 4th Cavalry Brigade at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Since 2001, 1st Army has mobilized, trained, and deployed more than 1.2 million soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and civilian interagency personnel for worldwide missions, including Operations Noble Eagle, Iraqi Freedom, Enduring Freedom, Freedom Sentinel, Spartan Shield, Inherent Resolve, Horn of Africa, Multinational Force and Observers, and the Air Defense Mission in the National Capital Region. Today's smaller, leaner, active-duty Army cannot fulfill an increasingly multifaceted global mission without its reserve component partners, and it is 1st Army's sacred duty to train the Army National Guard and Army Reserve for fights to come. Consider these words from 1st Army's first commanding general, General John Blackjack Pershing, as true today as they were 100 years ago.
We no longer differentiate in an ultimate sense between Army, National Guard, and Reserve forces. Every energy is bent to the development of the Army of the United States. Our purpose is to think only of the American citizen and to prepare him for duties in war.
With a century of experience and expertise, 1st Army remains committed to the training and readiness of our Army National Guard and Army Reserve partners as we look ahead to our next 100 years. First indeed.